Hey,
Hello.
good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? I was away for the weekend. I'm just getting reacquainted with my brain. Coffee
Well,
stuffing.
I'm doing okay, although it seems like we had a busy supply chain weekend.
Oh, I was literally away out of town for the weekend. My fiance turned 40, so we
Ah,
got out. We got away for the first time in like more than a year. Just a night away, a weekend away rather.
excellent.
Yeah. So
Um,
I haven't been watching the news or had my ear to the ground about anything since last week.
well, the Aqua Security Trivy repo was made private, and all
What?
the releases deleted.
Privy?
Um, through a GitHub Actions leak of a personal access token.
What do you mean? Like somebody was echoing the token into the GitHub Action script where it could be scraped and then used?
Uh, no, a pull request target workflow had a path where you
Oh,
could
the pull
manage to
request
get
added a CI thing, and then
uh the pull request the pull request was run with access to secrets and the ability to execute code in
right
some path,
because
not the
yeah,
normal path, but
right. Well, I know one way that has happened in the past, at least anecdotally, is like somebody makes a PR that adds a CI workflow, and then the pull request
yeah,
executes the CI workflow, and then it has access to the secrets, and it calls out to like a container that's just a random GitHub action that somebody wrote from their own repo. That's like us. That was our CIO's worst fear that like if they turned on GitHub Actions on our GitHub Enterprise account, then suddenly developers could just execute arbitrary actions that were from anywhere that did whatever, you
yeah.
know, up to and including. Wow, Trivy though, that's kind of meta. Like,
Uh I mean, yeah, it I don't know if it could have been worse or not, but it was not good.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think worse would be silent exfiltration over time,
Well,
but
I mean, silent exfiltration over time or um, using
because
that,
Trivy's run everywhere, right? So it's like,
yeah, using that to inject further poison in the rest of the ecosystem.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like using it like a launch pad. It's
Yeah.
almost better that they went, oh, I'm going to delete all the releases and tell everyone I'm here. So at least it could be contained. So what do they do? I mean, I imagine they're still
Um,
remediating.
they're yeah, they're working with GitHub to get things put back. They also removed the workflow, which ran an API diff between the current API and the new API.
Oh, to
And
cover their own
in the
tracks. Yeah.
process of figuring out the new API, there was a chance for attacker code to run, and it happened to have permissions to view secrets. And then from that, they exfiltrated a personal
Yep.
access token that was stored
Yep.
as a secret for some other workflow, and then that
Oh
work,
no.
and then used
Oh, they
that.
sort of personal access token as a GitHub secret.
Yeah,
Oh no. Not a fine grained.
I mean, it was
That
for some other workflow, but you can't limit which secrets get
no.
exposed to which workflows.
Right. It's just a flat secret space, a flat
Yeah,
namespace of secrets.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, your only recourse is fine-grained access tokens to minimize blast radius if they are exposed. But a
I
pat
mean,
is the opposite of that, right? It's just a wide open I am
well,
me.
but it's not clear that would help because it may be that they had a legitimate other workflow
Right.
that needed, you know, admin access for
Mm-hmm.
something like Terraform manage the repo or something like that.
So we did when I had a cloud team, we did for a
Mhm.
while use Terraform to manage repos, but there's this awful chicken and egg with huge implications if you like delete a repo or make it private or whatever, or make it
Yeah,
public in our
there's a
case. So
lot of
we backed away slowly. We
there's
actually
a
had
lot
a
of
working
friction there.
Terraform for
Um,
GitHub, but it was
yeah,
just too scary.
we had a different problem, which was people couldn't stop clicking buttons in the UI.
Oh.
and then like Terraform would either come along and undo, or Terraform would come along and like freak out because the
Yep.
state was different than what
Yep.
was in the,
Yeah. Like
the cloud provider.
that's exactly what happened. We had several hundred repos in our GitHub Enterprise thing. We put in
Yeah,
place all this GitHub stuff, and it was like once or twice, sometimes three times a week, we actually made like a workflow in Jira for it, a new type of ticket that we use, which is like
yeah.
unbork the state, because now people have clicked things and now it all
I mean, the
fails.
thing you can do is you can take away anyone's ability to click things, but
Right, but that
that
causes a
works in a
Republic.
limited set of organizations.
I don't know of an organization where it would work with modern developers where they just, this is my repo. What do you mean I can't
I
click
know
this thing?
one, but it's Google.
Does it have uh, Google? Do they actually use Terraform for that?
I don't
Or
know
is
if they
access
use
only? I
Terraform for
mean,
that.
we made it work for a couple quarters, and we like,
Uh,
but it just turned out like we made it. We were making ourselves a maintenance job and then a nagging job.
so at Google, when I was there, I was confused by all of these products that had web interfaces for administering things,
Yep.
like that had any kind of write admin interface through a web UI. I did not understand why you would do that, because you clearly wanted the configuration to be checked in somewhere where it could be code reviewed, and the web UI
Yeah.
was clearly not that. If you
Microsoft
come
wrote.
from that universe,
Yep.
then yes, you can't go in and change any of the buttons on, the GitHub settings without going through a commit workflow is not weird, but
It's not
it's
weird.
not, it is an exceptionally unusual environment, it turns out.
Yeah, we had something at Microsoft on what's the SCVMM, System Center Virtual
Mm-hmm.
Machine Manager. It's what app B wired itself
Yeah.
into. And we had a little thing in all the debug UIs where anything that like you would configure in an admin UI,
Mm-hmm.
there would be a little extra button in the debug builds up next to minimize, maximize,
Mm-hmm.
kill, that you would click and it would pop up Notepad,
Mm-hmm.
Visual Notepad with a PowerShell script that had a block of state, like just a
Yeah.
JSON block that had like the things that the UI set with clicky
Mm-hmm.
clicky, and then an API call that used that block of state.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like we could very quickly automate things by going clickety 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 or make test cases or reproduce
Yep.
things. But it was really useful for automating workflows. So like anything that would have stateful changes, like automated tests or anything, all would be modeled after that. Like here's some state and here's an API call. And so
Yeah.
it still wasn't like completely configuration driven. This is before Kubernetes and before just that mindset. But it was like a significant step along that path and
Yep.
gave somebody anytime anything ran against like production systems or test
Yeah.
systems, like it gave like a verifiable, reproducible breadcrumb trail at the least, even though it still had some,
Yeah.
idiomatic
No, and
code.
I understand, having lived away from that for a while and done a bunch of personal stuff, why
Yeah.
most people don't live that way. But you
No.
can't live 1 foot in that world and 1 foot out of that world. Like you
Well,
have to
so
be all in.
yeah, if I seem a little slow and tired, in addition to being away for the weekend, I came back and then like I landed a new contract job
Ah,
last week. Yeah, for the first time. I just got
congrats.
my first
Yeah,
paycheck. I've been working it for a couple of weeks.
yeah,
It's a friend that we were VPs together. He was
yeah,
at a startup, and we never actually worked together, but we were like adjacent. And we've been friends for these 10, 11 years since. And he works at Amazon now. He's a manager. He's got like 30 people in the languages group. So if it's Rust at Amazon, it's his teams. Um, Rust and a couple other languages now too,
yeah.
Java, um, for the language runtimes and the frameworks and the packaging and all that. But anyway, he also has a game company which has exactly one employee and
Hmm.
now has one employee and one contractor.
Hmm.
And so we're kind of tag teaming some. Well, it's something
Yeah.
different. I don't know if you're familiar with Godot or not.
Vaguely.
Yeah, it's it's sort of Python-y.
Hmm.
They have a GD script language and interpreter that they've made, but it interops with .NET and C++, and it's an open source game engine.
Yeah.
And so we're making a game server, and so I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of like infrastructure work and foundational work. Like he's just hacking on a repo, to your point, right?
Yeah.
And he's got like a GitHub org and some private repos, and we're hacking in there. And I spent like hours and hours over the weekend. Yeah, he was like, I need help. This used to this it's using WebSockets under the covers in
Yeah.
part. And it's like this used to have higher performance, and I did something and I don't know what. Can you take a look at it? And it was like on his test branch. And so like I worked on it for a few days. And in those few days, like of course, like he just like clicked merge and merged his test branch into main. And then I spent Sunday like being a couple days ago, and he spent Sunday like all day hacking on stuff. So there's like 20 more commits, and he's like started all this stuff, and like
Yep.
I literally like spent last night. I've got like a big like
Yeah.
a three-way diff. Like figuring out, okay, I fixed these things, you fixed those things too. You didn't fix these things, you fixed another thing. And when I
Yeah.
talked to him about it, I was like, hey, here's a commit. What it does, it restores performance. I found 4 bugs that were like, silly little things
Yeah.
that would be an issue at scale, but we're not seeing them now. I put it in place. I generated a bunch of mermaid documents and I read through all your code and your design and like came up with like a design spec because we didn't have one. And I put it in some automated tests and uh, I'd like to test this stuff out. If you like these docs, they're ready to go and publish to GitHub pages. And he was like, oh, I did a whole bunch more stuff. I was like, oh, what branch is it? He's like, main. It's like, this is why people don't want to have that kind of
Yeah.
oversight because they want to run fast and they want to go clickety clickety
Yeah.
and just do stuff. And so I was like, okay, so we're partying on main. I was like, here's what I need, Arthur. I need to snap a tag or a release. He's like, how do I do tags? I was like, let's teach you how to do tags. Like I need like a
Yeah.
line in the sand where like I can work on something for at least a few days before before you integrate. Um, I think I may have lost you. Oh, you're back.
Yeah. I don't know. I got a
So in the
big
interest
lag
of
for
time, we're
some
trying
reason.
to close. Yeah,
You're
I
fine now.
saw that. Yeah. Um, okay. So I'd like to close this down in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think I'm
Yeah.
on track to do that. I've got. I haven't heard from Jen, and I haven't looked at the reading list. But
I
before,
don't know
I
that
don't think
we.
I don't think it's. I mean, we would just be pointing links to things that CNCF and Tag Security has already published voluminously.
Yeah.
Voluminously, yeah. Is voluminously the word?
Voluminously is the word
It
that.
is.
Yeah.
It is voluminously. Um, so, I mean, we did a little literature review, and my takeaway is like we don't need to do that.
We
Um,
don't need more words.
no, we do not need more words or more things for people to read.
Yeah.
Um, I've refactored my script a little bit because before I just kind of hacked on it in the guac repo in the
Hmm.
wrong place because I haven't done a lot of Go. So in the last
Yeah.
week or so, if you go look at that branch, it's been refactored so that guac one now has an additional command to export the schema. I also have some Python that goes and takes that schema and makes a new graph out of it and makes sure that like it all works. Um, I was playing around with as an intermediate step. I've got just generating sample data that matches the right data types to make sure that we can
Mhm.
ETL data out of it using Python, just direct to the Postgres database. You either have to like run in the same Docker Compose that Guac has if you're doing the Docker Compose route, or I haven't played with the Kubernetes
Yeah.
route. But whatever, you just have to expose a port and then you can get at the database to keep it out of it for CI.
You just need to get to the database. However, that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just add a port mapping to the Docker Compose for now,
Yep.
because that's effectively how it'll be run in a CI job, where it
Hmm.
builds something and then just makes a baby SBOM, not a baby SBOM, but an SBOM for just that project, and then enriches the graph and then dumps it. Right. So that dump to graph format, I'm looking at on the technical side 2 ways. One is it just sits in a DuckDB file, which is a little bit easier to hold than a gaggle of 30
Sure.
plus Parquet
Yeah.
files per table. Um, and there's a graph export format that basically is just node and edge tables
I seem to be having network problems again.
Yeah, it's not GPX. That's you video pro. Hey,
Hey, I think maybe it was my I think maybe my camera got into a weird state. Was generating a bunch of
that
USB
happens.
interrupts is my guess. And it turns out that
Yep.
USB interrupts
Yeah.
make the
When
rest
you
of my
when you get
machine real sad.
yeah. Are you
Okay,
yeah?
I think that's
Don't
better
do
now.
that. You interrupt storms. Okay. Okay. I can try
Yeah,
mine again too. Yeah.
I was gonna
That
say
happens.
Windows Video Stack is I don't understand.
Yeah. Sometimes even like a frayed cable or something like that, where it's partially connecting, can cause bus errors, and then you have interrupt storms,
Yeah.
and then you have interrupt storms. Um, I was saying I was looking at the intermediary format that we use from the CI jobs to
Hmm.
dump state so that it can be picked up and aggregated later. Um, um, I'm leaning towards the new graph format because it's an open format and it's just easy. There's less like
Sounds good.
there's less like Python code that's like, this is a node table, this is an edge
Do
table.
you have an overview of the components
Yes, I'm
in
working on that for today.
okay, I was
That's
gonna
my next
say in
PR.
a
Yeah.
documentation friendly format.
Yes, I've got some markdown and some remade documents, and my intention
Great.
is to check that into the tag security repo under this initiative's README. A couple of weeks ago, you were like, "Don't discount how long it takes to write things up." I was like, "Pshaw, it takes a while to write things up." But yeah, I have that, and we now have that SBOMs repo that I linked to last week
Hmm.
with like oodles and oodles of SBOMs made with the bomb utility.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's not perfect, but it's what it is, and then we can pair that with, and for the things that we don't have, or for the languages not Go, here's what
Yeah.
that looks like, and that's a to be done by projects or by whomever, but however
Yep.
you get to an SBOM, but we now have like a critical mass in order to test this stuff without relying on GitHub runners at scale
Hmm.
to test these
Yeah.
ideas and show them. I'm using my Threadripper because it's got 32 physical cores
Yeah.
and a quarter terabyte of RAM, so I can just like run all these blocks in parallel and run the graph stuff in parallel and get some measurements. So part of the outcome will be like, here's what the overhead is, rather than trial and error in CI. But the previous approach I already know because I tried that uses the guild stuff. So this is like Hive registry using just GraphQL to extract data. I haven't actually found a way to do it like holistically in a schema driven way. Um, it's still like the overhead of running all of those components in CI means that you need like either a private runner or you're constantly dealing
Hmm.
with various components being resource starved. I just didn't find a way to scrunch it down to a CI job that was pragmatic without cost.
I think that's
And
fine.
yeah,
Like we can
so I'm
call that
using
out as a future challenge. Like,
but
hey,
no,
if
what
you
I mean
really
is
want
I
to,
went away from that more complicated solution. It's all documented up the wazoo. There's design specs to your point. It actually
yeah,
really works. It's like it's elegant and like completely driven by the GraphQL schema definition stuff. Um, but you end up having to mess around with RDF exports and and
it's too
I
heavyweight.
thought
Is what I'm hearing.
it's too heavyweight and it's not only too computationally heavyweight, it's cognitively too heavyweight because whoever's going to use this is going to be looking at GraphQL queries that are not even that complicated as GraphQL goes, but you've got like fragments like the
Yeah.
GraphQL fragments, and it's just
Well, do you know how
I
they're
know
going to
what,
fix it when it
huh?
stop? You know how when it breaks? Do you know how they're going to fix it?
They're not. They're going to turn it off,
I was going to
right?
say RM. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's like the elegant solution though that is just it's not logistically feasible at the scale we need and for the audiences we need.
Yeah.
So I abandoned it and went with this DuckDB embedded database. Like just hit Postgres, just pull the tables. Like here's a
Make it
hacky Go
very
thing.
lightweight. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen the little Go utility I keep talking about, but all it literally does is look at the GraphQL stuff that's checked into Guac, and then emits to standard out as either JSON, a list of all the edges and relationships and all of the types of metadata associated with all of the entities and relationships, um, from a schema perspective, and, and more usefully, it generates DDL that you can pull right into LadybugDB, which is like graph, which is
Yep.
structured just like DuckDB,
We've talked about
attacking
that.
arrow under the covers. But it's just like create. Yeah, we talked about that already. So that stuff is all vetted. I beefed up the command line to have verbose help. So I'm trying to make that into a PR to the Guac repo from my fork that's consistent with how Guac is doing their stuff. So like that branch now has verbose help, a full CLI implementation with all the right flags, as well as some test code that wires into Go based tests. I actually have a Go test that shells out to a Python script to do some validation to make sure that that end works too. The only thing left uh, is actually measuring and verifying pulling data out of live databases. Um, and I think to make that even less error prone, the CI job and the script that runs actually halts the Guac ingester that might be making database connections,
Yep.
so that I have a Quiesced database with no other connections. And I'm literally, I I, I didn't want to use the Postgres tools to dump
Mm-hmm.
tables because it's icky. So I'm just using DuckDB because it's got great support for buffer reads and streaming rights. Um, um, to just dump the tables one by one into DuckDB fast joins, creating all of the relationship data, that's driven from the GraphQL schema. So,
So you were talking about trying to finish this up in the next couple weeks.
yes, to get it to a point where we can
Do we
set,
have a list of what we want to deliver?
that's
Would it
also
help?
in,
Would it help to come up with one?
yes, we do. And that's also in that PR to that main doc page. But in short, it's a working CI job, and an example of it, that runs Guac as we talked about
Yeah.
and does this stuff. Um, some example scripts of running those two queries for the CRA, um, compliance. Uh, One being, the license changed from what it was before, somewhere in the transitive dependencies for a CNCF project, um, which is easy in Cypher and wickedly hard in SQL.
Yep.
Um, and then the other is, here is a new CVE that was that was released. Part A of two of there's a part A and part B. Part A is,
Mm-hmm.
does this does this package, irrespective of version, does
Mm-hmm.
this package at all exist in my transitive dependency chains?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, like how and where, um, uh, in such a way that you can not only do it for a project by project query, but just say for all 200 plus projects, you know, what's the exposure for this particular package or the specific package Perl, like to a specific, uh,
Yeah.
uh, version. And
Mm-hmm.
then you want to also be able to, order it by the degree of exposure, either by number of projects or number of places where it comes in.
Yeah.
Um, and the last thing, and I don't know if we should in scope this or not, but between you and me, you had given me a heads up about some stuff GFU was doing around
I
I don't think
yeah.
we should take a dependency on it, but
Agreed.
I did attend the CNCF meeting where he talked about it. I raised a couple questions, and
Yeah.
it was clear that that wasn't going to be talked about, but I was free to open up issues. But my read on it is this feels like just yet another YAML file right? Like that is better than all the rest of the YAML files, but it's still
It's unclear if it's a YAML file or a special named repo, but yes.
sorry. I was using YAML file in a hand waving colloquial way as like a static text file that is updated by humans or updated by a script run by humans, but it's
So
still
the
just like yet another. It's
yeah,
just like one more thing to parse that's slightly the same info, or it's actually
yeah,
not the same info. It's overlapping info,
yeah.
but I
No, I don't think
understand
it's going
what
to
he's doing.
help.
Yeah, but like I don't see that that solves the nugget of the actual problem. It just
No.
makes another place to go look that may or may not be up to date.
Yeah.
So um, that's just news. I don't think there's a deliverable there. I was kind
I
of keen on it for getting the multiple repos for a single project mapping. Multiple meaningful repos, but um, I don't want to try to crack that. It just doesn't seem like it's
it
what
yeah,
this initiative is about.
and it doesn't seem like it's ready.
No, or that it will work ultimately. But I don't want to be a naysayer. And if they're going to come
Oh, yeah.
together around a new thing, at
Yeah.
least they're coming together, whatever. But like, I'm going to just pretend it's not there for now.
I think that's the right approach.
Okay.
That was a hey, this thing exists, maybe it's worth looking at, and on further inspection, nah.
So I have a question for you, two.
Yeah.
One, did you ever get any clarity on the Kubernetes stuff about like they have one big monster S bomb for all of Kubernetes, which is fine, but
I
I have
have
no
not.
idea how it's generated and nothing about how it's
I
generated.
haven't chased it very hard, I'll admit.
I don't I don't
I'm happy
I
to go
don't think
back
it.
and do that.
Uh, if you feel like it, I feel like Kubernetes and Open Telemetry are both outliers with the rest of the CNCF projects in that they are so big. And in the Kubernetes case, we get the bomb tool out of it anyway. So that was like the first question. So cool, and it doesn't matter about anything. Um, it's just a particularly big S bomb, like 35 megs or something, which
I
isn't huge,
mean, it
huge,
would
but
be
it's
nice
big
if they
enough.
published it just because it would be nice to have examples out in the world. But yes.
Well, yeah, well they do publish the S bomb right on an HTTPS
Sorry.
endpoint.
Uh Publicize and support.
Yeah, or talk about how they generate it or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's also canonical for all of Kubernetes, and I haven't looked in enough. Maybe with the new bomb changes in the next spin of Kubernetes, what 135 or 136, whatever it is now, dot 35 or dot 36, it'll have the mappings that say like this component of Kubernetes has these dependencies. Because when I looked at it before, it was the same as the previous bomb output, which is just like a flat list
Yeah.
of like one big list of all dependencies, not like nested or chunked out into,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah. Something
proxy
useful.
or yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, something useful other than just like all of Kubernetes has all of these dependencies.
It may
Open
have at
to
least these dependencies. Yep.
yeah, okay. So the second thing that I was curious if you had an opinion on is now that we have the CNCF generating S bombs for anything with a go.mod in the root of its repo. That's the
That's
that's
the
the
heuristic they're using. Yep.
right. They say but they do go for every project in the org of the project. They enumerate all the repos, and then for
Yeah.
every single one of those repos, if there's a go mod, they run the bomb tool and make an S bomb for it.
Uh-huh.
So that's their heuristic for good or ill. Like that means it's
Yeah.
picking up like random side projects and things that aren't really part of the project but have a
And
go.mod.
build utilities and
But
yeah.
whatever, they have a script that like spiders out. It uses one GraphQL query and then it uses another GraphQL query to
Sure.
enumerate
Yeah.
all repos in the
It
org. Like
exists.
I've got this code too,
Yeah.
but they're doing that at least. So that's like gives, I would say, fairly universal coverage at least for what it is for Go based things. But
Hmm.
like you don't have to look for like the most of the even the observe like Jaeger for example, they make an S bomb, um, but there's like 4 or 5 languages going on there, not just Go.
Yeah.
So if we're using the bomb tool in the CNCF for Go stuff, is there like another tool that is good at everything that's not Go, or does it quickly turn into a per language patchwork of tools? Like, is there anything that handles like holistically? Oh,
No.
there's some Python, there's some Rust,
No,
there's some. Okay, so it is a
um,
language by language tool execution, if you will.
there are tools that will handle multiple languages, but they look like um, container scanners to a large extent.
Okay, so there's like enumerate packages and things like that, but they don't.
Enumerate packages, possibly, find, oh, look, this has a, user lib Python. Let me crawl over its contents and use that to guess, what Python stuff you're using. Because
Oh,
presumably you pip installed it or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, but it's like sort of heuristic. It's not like let's install it and then look at the wheels or something like that. That is more
um,
deterministic. Or even making
I
a
mean,
pip freeze
that is
file.
basically like you installed stuff already. Let's look at what ended up on the disk.
Okay, so they just run it and then they do a pip freeze or whatever and get all the packages and versions and then
I mean, you don't even have to do a pip freeze.
yeah,
You just literally look at the container image. And
yeah,
either Python is there or it's not, or you're doing sketchy stuff that they won't find.
right. But the difference is like if you're just looking at pip by itself
I
doesn't
understand that pip
it
does
doesn't
other
do like what
stuff.
poetry does and give you like a this pulled in this pulled in this pulled in
Sure.
this. You
Yeah.
just get like a flattened list.
Yeah. That's what they end up with. Yeah.
Okay, so that's surprising to me. I would have thought
Well,
that
and
scanners would have
worse
done
than
the
that,
poetry thing.
depending on how you build your software, you may include like dev dependencies in your
Yeah,
container image, and they'll
or
show up in your
multiple
SBOM.
or if you're making multiple outputs, you can have multiple versions of the same package because the way the requirements files are, one might have pulled in a newer version than the other, and they end up in different
There's
binaries.
a whole ton of stuff that can go wrong. Yes.
Okay, but there is no that you know of like bomb like tool that you could just point at something that is more polyglot.
It is infeasible.
Okay.
Um, because you need to get in bed with the package resolution algorithm for the specific language in question.
Yep.
Um, which means it has to be language specific.
Right.
Um,
It seems like the industry could come together around some kind of like open way to modularly do this.
I
Right.
love your optimism.
I know
Um,
I'm forever an optimist.
I
We've
mean,
talked about this before, but
well, to be
the
clear, the semantics of how you resolve modules vary between, for example, Python and Java. And if you tried to apply Python semantics to Java or Java
yep.
semantics to Python, you'd end up with a bunch of broken applications. So nobody is going to stand up and say, I'm going to break my entire ecosystem for the benefit of having the same package resolution as other language. Like that's not objectively, I'm not even sure that's a good idea. Even if, you can point to like long-term, oh, hey, we'd have simpler tools.
Okay.
Like
Well,
the way you'd have simpler tools is you'd have one less language in the ecosystem because you had decided to terminate your language ecosystem. Um,
I suppose. Um,
which is a thing you can do. Perl tried real freaking hard. Um,
but what do you mean by making like CPAN packages and stuff to
Perl
do
6.
everything that you? Oh, I haven't used Perl since the '90s, man.
That's okay. No
Like,
one's used Perl 6 either.
okay, I'm not familiar with what they did.
They
Okay.
decided that they were going to normalize and regularize the language. And so Perl 6 was going to be incompatible with Perl 5.
Oh, and then nobody used it, and I see. So
And
they dinosaured.
all the packages were in Perl 5.
Yep.
And
Yeah, the
there was
CPAN
no like
packages.
2 to 3 like Python had because it's
I see.
Perl.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, that was my first job as a junior software engineer when that was still a title when I was in college. I was unfucking a build system written in Perl. Um, that called GCC and did stuff. Okay, then to wrap this up, for the purposes of this, in terms of
Yeah.
scoping, I am not messing with anything other than the S bombs generated by the bomb tool because that seems to be. I mean, Go is the most common language. That's what the CNCF is doing. but all of this should work if you point it at different SBOMs that came from different places that
Which
have other.
repo is this that the PR is in?
Well, I'm going to be making the PR in the tag
Okay.
security and compliance repo under the initiatives
So the
for
tag
this.
security and compliance repo has been archived and marked read only.
I'm sorry, the TOC
Okay. And the
tags.
PR does not yet exist.
No. I'm making it
Great.
now. I'm
Okay.
making that
That's
readme.
fine. I
Yeah,
just, if I wanted to help out or contribute, I was,
yeah.
I was
Let
willing to
me.
potentially do that, but I needed to know,
Yeah.
hey, look
Well, let
here for
me.
the intermediate state. And the intermediate state is currently on your local disk, and I shouldn't go
It
looking for
is.
it.
Yes, I will
You'll
send
be
you
very
in
upset
Slack.
if I break in and start poking around on your computer.
um. Yes. So I will make that PR and send it to you, so we can
That's fine.
collaborate on it as a draft. Yeah, it's a readme and stuff that exists here, and some
Nice.
notes I have.
And it sounds like there's
Um,
also some changes in Guac and maybe some changes elsewhere. But
uh, yes, there's a fork in Guac, and I can point that you can look at now, and
that's
I've already
fine.
sent links to that.
I
Yeah, I'll show you.
I was just trying to collate all that information into our meeting notes so that anyone who wasn't here can catch up.
I
And if
appreciate
stuff is
that.
still in flight, that's fine. I can record it as in flight. But if it was in a place where it would be helpful for someone else to pitch in, I didn't want to have hidden it from people.
Yep. Here I'm pointing you right to. Here is the branch in my fork that will also be in the PR I send as actually I'll put it in Slack. I started using Slack huddles and they do a cool thing that I really like. Where like the meeting notes just become a Slack thread. But this is that bit that I've got now done and polished up a little bit.
Okay.
And it's less hacky. This actually uses like the right. I was hacking in the wrong place on the Go tree just to make something work, but I've kind
That's
of
fine.
repackaged it to be a Guac
Yeah.
one extra command. But that's how I'm dumping out the schema to DDL that I can pull in. And there's a couple tests, a simple test and a load test. Um, I'll link that to the PR2 that's in the TOC repo tag and security compliance initiatives. That tree where we have a simple README now. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, if you want to send me a link to a branch, I can stick that in there as a. But if the branch doesn't exist yet or isn't in a shape for people to look at it, that's fine.
the branch of the talk repo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on this afternoon.
Okay.
In fact,
That's
I'm
fine.
all installed now to do stuff, so I can probably have that done in short order. That'll
Okay.
be my task for today. But yeah, that's where we are now. Um,
Sounds good.
I want to have a little, results of like,
Yeah.
What's the performance envelope of running Guac and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um, I managed to streamline it. Oh, Guac does some things too that I was doing with data, my
Mm-hmm.
supply chain data collector utility, which we still have. And as soon as we want to crack the more social egg of like the non-Go based SBOMs,
Mm-hmm.
we that works. Like you can run that today in inside 10 minutes for the whole CNCF ecosystem. It will pull down all 200 plus um, um, metadata about all of those repos.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually run it up to 500 repos and it takes like 15 minutes. It defaults to only doing 5 in parallel, so you don't get
Very limited.
rate limited and call the whatever they call it.
Yep.
But you do need a token, and it builds a bunch of DuckDB tables that have all the info that can be queried. Um, but some of what it was doing around enumerating GitHub releases, Guac does directly.
Okay.
I hadn't seen that, so I don't know if they added that since I did my initial eval last summer. But Guac One can spider
Moving
out when it
target.
enriches.
Yep.
Yeah, and it actually hits the GraphQL APIs just like my utility does, and pulls release info. But as we've already found, there's not a lot of SBOMs that are contained in that release info. It's more just saying like, here's the
Yeah.
releases, are they signed and attested and things like that. Cool. I have been attending that Linux Foundation SBOM working group for the last few months as well,
Okay.
just kind of lurking. between you and me, not a lot seems to be happening there, other than
I
like
mean,
a lot of like interesting discussions that are kind of, I don't know, the people that are showing up there are coming from all the different companies that have
yeah,
products. And I think you called this one too, but just circling back, like I've learned a lot just by hearing, mostly like vocabulary,
yeah,
and like kind of, but like clearly it's not exactly solution focused or technology focused. It seems to be networking and or pontificating
yeah.
about this tool versus that tool that people happen to be selling. Um,
I mean, yeah.
I guess I am. I
The
don't want to
elephant
say I'm.
instead of is a series of trade organizations. It's not totally surprising that
Yeah, I've been
some of
kind
that
of
would
like
happen.
seeing
And
that
the process
more.
of building standards is often slow and awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I'm naive. I'm going to stick with optimistic, but I was more optimistic than maybe I should have been. That it was like because I started asking questions last month or 2 months
Mhm.
ago, and there was a lot of like long awkward silence after I asked like some basic questions, and then like the moderator kind of like after a long uncomfortable silence be like, well, I don't know if that's in scope for our discussion for today. Do you know what I mean?
Have you noticed
So
that no one in this conversation is wearing clothes?
yeah, right. Well, yeah. I was
Yep,
like
yeah,
there's these like five elephants at the table and no one's talking about any of them.
yeah,
And I came to get best practices and
yeah,
guidance, and this is
yeah,
the group that said that they're going to be doing that, but there's no guidance or
yep,
practices.
yeah.
So, again, I just wanted to circle back. I think you told me that it would be like that in October or something, and I was like, no, say it isn't so. It can't be that way.
I mean,
So,
I
I
don't know
mean,
if that was myself or someone else that I was possibly passing along
you basically said
commentary
that
from,
some of
but
the working groups were. Um, I was saying I wanted to go to these things because they were advertising as like the place where good practices and standards and guidance comes from about how to do stuff like
yeah.
generate SBOMs the smart way. And I think you were trying to temper my expectations about
Well,
that.
okay.
So you did you were just kind of inject some pragmatism with the recording off, and I was
I
like,
mean,
no, it can't be that way. That's you're a naysayer, Evan. But like after kind of attending for a couple of months here and there and going to three or four of the different ones, like I got a bunch of good reading links. I'll say
yeah.
that, and I found like
I
some
mean,
nice
there's a
bookmarks
lot
to
of
NIST.
interesting and hard problems,
Yeah,
but if there were clear, well agreed on solutions, we'd probably all be repeating them to each other.
well, yeah, most of the work seemed to be like safe stuff. Like let's make a paper
Uh-huh.
that maps
Yeah.
the elements of NIST to this framework or
Yeah.
that framework, and it's all good work, but it's all like safe.
It's for
You,
people who have regulatory requirements.
right.
Yeah.
Let's see what else in the rumor mill. I've been attending the AI working group stuff. They have a couple of cool papers. We also have a paper that has been brewing inside tag operational resilience that is sort of adjacent to this. It's not about supply chain per se, but it's about the service level, the levels of service level automation. I hate the title for it. I hope they change
Okay.
it. But it's basically what are the different levels of scenario that you can use AI for, and what are some of the security and or operational or logistical risks? Why would
Mm,
you do it? And it's a I'll call it a framing paper. It's Severin. I don't know if you know Severin
okay.
from Open Telemetry Community. He
I don't, but
he worked on Open
sounds like an
Telemetry
interesting
docs.
premise.
Yeah, well, again, I could point you at they just had their kickoff and they didn't record it because somebody didn't push the fucking button. So I wasn't able to attend last Thursday for the formal kickoff, but it's an initiative that Severin pitched. I can find it for you. It's in the it's
I mean,
but anyway, he works at Causely AI
mhm,
now, which is causal models,
mhm,
like old school causal. Well, I don't want to say old school, but
yeah.
mathematical causal models, and they've built up a whole ontology of infra and workloads and things like that. But Severin worked on OpenTelemetry docs for a long time, and he's been an OpenTelemetry community member, and so he made this proposal that we do this white paper.
No,
And
it seems like a useful framing for a lot of the people who are super optimistic about AI ops, being a thing after it wasn't the last, 8 times that it was tried. Which is not
Yeah,
to say that there's not good stuff going on and that AI ops may not be a good real thing, only that we've been sold it a lot of times.
well, yeah, yep. So here,
I think there's reasons to be optimistic. I don't want this to come across as, Evan is just cynical and doesn't think we'll make any progress.
oh, I
I'm
think
also
that,
cynical and think that progress will be slower than the optimists believe.
well, yeah. So right now they're trying to get critical mass for contributors. They seem to have found a bunch of them, um, but
Excellent.
it's another paper of the ilk I mentioned before, where it's
Yeah.
just kind of like let's agree on some nouns and let's agree on some levels and a
I
framework.
think that
And it's not broken, but it's also it's motherhood and apple pie. Does that make sense? That's a gendered
um
term, but it's good to do.
to some degree it is, oh, this is all the stuff that we can agree on. On the other hand, for folks who are unfamiliar with the space, um, having a map that is broadly agreed on uh, beats, wandering in with no idea what you're
Right.
doing and
Exactly. So
just smacking your face into things and seeing what happens.
yeah, so when this came through from Severin, I was like, okay, cool, and I got behind it, and so I signed off on it along with Carol. Um, I said I'm happy to contribute, but not drive it because I'm driving too many things,
Yeah.
not even that well as it is. But I sent the link. It's a reasonable. It's a short issue, and he's got it scoped. But it's another one of these kind of papers that's good to do. But I figured it was sort of adjacent to tag security and compliance, and that you guys have a lot of experience with doing these kinds of white papers. And so the ask is uh, uh, if there's a well paved path, and I think there is for like quite literally like how to
Mm-hmm.
collaborate, how to write them, how to have a PDF published in a versioned way that doesn't involve like a bunch of manual junk. Right now, they're just working in a Google Doc, but it will quickly come to like we need PRs and things like
Yeah.
that. So um, I, I was hoping to leverage whatever y'all have developed in tag security because it seems like you've been doing it for years now. Um,
With
and
varying levels of success. Yeah.
yeah, and right now they're not to the point where it matters because they just have a baby Google Doc that they're starting on. But I was hoping in the next couple of weeks to be able to give them some guidance on like how not to reinvent wheels and things. So if there's someone I should talk to, or if there's anything that comes to mind, that
I
would be super
mean,
useful. This isn't about
the
this initiative, but
the one thing I will say that we've gotten feedback on um, in the tag security and compliance white paper process is you should have a clear notion as to why this content is coming out of the CNCF and how cloud native specifically um, is different from other environments, which explains why it's coming out of the CNCF.
and not just people who happen to be in the CNCF.
It's not just I happen to be here, and so I'm going
Right,
to use this as my opportunity to get something published from a bigger voice. But
right. It needs to have
um,
a focus on cloud native.
it needs to have a clear, hey, this is cloud native because um, and so if you end up talking about a bunch of stuff and there's nothing that's specific to cloud native, you may find that the white paper is harder to get approved through the TOC for publishing.
Yep. No, that's really good advice. I don't know that they're doing that now.
I
Um,
That's why I'm passing that particular
yeah,
bit
I
along
mean,
to you that I've received from TOC members in previous white paper discussions.
yeah, I mean, I kind of in our leads meeting, I raised something similar. I was like, what about this is about like the CNCF?
I mean, I
And the
think that
response I got was like, AI is cloud native. And I was like, well, you know, it's,
I mean,
yes, but
I think that there are a number of features of cloud native that are useful and you could fit in there. For example, cloud native tends to have a stronger infrastructure as code component.
yep,
Potentially has, multiple environments or deployment arenas
yep. You want
where
workload portability. That's a tenant of cloud
potentially
native. Yep,
workload portability or even simply multi-regional deployment. Um,
sure.
may be a case where AI methods are helpful to say this area is doing fine, this area is doing badly. What are the differences?
Yeah, they're trying. I think that would work well for the levels. Like you can see
Yeah,
in the inspiration, they're trying to like level zero manual, you
yeah,
know, reactive assistance, proactive guidance, human in the loop, full autonomy. Um, that could be, yeah, that could be
and
beefed up to
interesting.
talk
And
about.
again, hey, we've got a lot of this stuff encoded as software artifacts that LLMs can work on. I think is another place where again you can say, hey, this may not be only cloud native, but cloud native pushes a lot of that. But I would just encourage you to say, okay, um, what are the cloud native, you know, principles that this builds upon?
Okay. A last little thing came into my mind that would be good. I'd love your reaction on
Mm-hmm.
that I hadn't thought of at the outset, but I was hemming and hawing about last week to the point of rumination. Um, so this embedded graph database that's like DuckDB but for graphs
Yeah.
that I've been talking about is its lineage was a group at University of Waterloo computer science department who
Yep.
happened to have some overlap with the DuckDB community.
Yeah.
They were using DuckDB and they're like, we want this for graphs, right?
Yeah.
And they made KuzuDB, which
Yeah.
like existed for a number of years as an
And it
MIT project.
was, university backed and therefore had a lifespan that matched people's careers at that university.
Exactly right. It looked like it lasted like three or
Okay.
4 years. Somebody did like some postdoc
Yeah.
work, and then they
Yeah.
moved on, and then they archived it.
And some
And
people make forks, and
and
some
there
of the
are
forks
there are
seem
yes, there are three main forks.
okay.
One by a company called Kinviz. They
Okay.
do graph visualization stuff, but it's not open. But they use open source stuff. But you pay a license for it.
Somebody
So,
somebody
so
graduated and decided to start their company on
yes,
stuff
and
that they
so
yeah.
well, Kinviz has been around for 15 years in the Neo4j
Oh,
ecosystem, but they're
okay.
beefing up their stuff. This gives them like client side
Sure.
embedded graph
Yeah.
database,
Okay.
local whatever.
Yeah.
I actually used to do the same thing with Neo4j using Java because
Okay.
you do
Yeah.
WASM and stuff. But anyway, but that fork is called Bighorn. I'm not using it. The
Mm-hmm.
second fork of three is called Ryu Graph,
Yep.
and a company that was one
And
of
then
the
there's
original
Ladybug
guys.
DB is the third one you've talked about.
Right. And then Ladybug DB. In the docs and stuff, and even in like
Yeah.
the argument that
Yeah.
for the Guac One utility, I'm using Kuzu, which technically doesn't exist anymore. And I
Uh-huh.
want to make a change to update everything to just say we're using Ladybug,
Okay.
right?
Go for it.
That's okay to pick a fork, I think. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
For this particular implementation, absolutely.
Right. And specifically because it's being optimized and a bunch of the changes in the last few months are around
Well, and
fast reads
doing
and writes
something
from
that works.
Parquet sitting in S3,
Yeah.
which is our scenario.
Yeah.
Um, that said, the Ryu graph one, like if you wanted to take this supply chain graph that we've now stitched
Yeah.
together, right, and your purpose was not to run queries against
Mm-hmm.
data sitting in S3, but was instead to like build an MCP server to have
Mm-hmm.
an AI assistant at some level, um, being able to access that, then you would actually want to use Ryu graph, right?
Okay.
Because they
But
have
that's not what you're
gone.
doing.
It's not what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Okay. I didn't know what the right like open source
You
etiquette
can
was. Like,
you can nod that these other things exist and they might be good for other purposes
but we're
and
using this one
say
because it's good
we're
for our
using
purpose.
this one because I found it first because it's perfectly adequate, because, I like their logo better.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. And then the last piece of that is,
like
and
if
it's
you're
okay
asking the
for,
POC to endorse one of these things, as
I am
opposed to
not.
simply say, hey, we have a project that happens to use this, then we'll have a more serious conversation. But if you're just
Well,
using it, then just use it.
yeah, this isn't even actually CNCF since like it's a fork of an
Yeah.
open SSF project. And so I wasn't
No,
sure what their rules might be. Like, can I reach out? I've reached out to the Ryu Graph guy and
mhm.
I have a meeting with him just to chit chat. But I was going to do the same for Ladybug,
I
and I
mean,
assume that's okay. I mean, again, I'm not claiming
I
that the
mean,
CNCF is doing anything. Or
yeah. I mean, if this is useful and interesting to the Guac folks, then they mostly get to pick. It's
yeah,
not OpenSSF is not quite as fiercely fairness focused as the
okay,
CNCF.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like, it's like, okay, there's three forks
There's
from the
there's
same
reasons
project.
for all of this, but I don't really think we've got the time to get into them. But yeah, OpenSSF,
Thanks.
if the Guac maintainers are fine, it should be fine.
Okay. Well, we wait like in terms of card talk. Thank you for your feedback. We've wasted another perfectly good hour on a Monday. It wasn't a waste though.
That
I got a
that
bunch of
radio
answers.
show has been done for at least 10 years.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Has it really? Am I showing my age? In my mind, it's still an active thing, but I think one of them passed on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. No,
reruns
it's
now.
not a thing. Hasn't been for a while.
My favorite thing was at the end where they're like, if you want to send feedback, write your feedback with a Sharpie on your favorite piece of fruit and mail it to us. Cool. All right, man. I'll send you a PR when I've got it for that read.
2012 was the last episode. Bye.
I didn't realize it'd been that long. That's a baker's dozen years. Jeez. Okay. Yeah.